All right, we're going to reconvene from our special meeting in closed session, and we've instructed the city manager to start negotiations with the selected firm, and that should be brought to our September council meeting, okay? And we're going to go ahead and open up the city council regular meeting for Monday, August 21st. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Kusamoto.
Here.
Councilmember Murphy.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Here.
Mayor Hasselbrink.
Here. And if you could join me, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Kusamoto, followed by the invocation by Councilmember Murphy.
Thank you, and please join me for the pledge to our flag. And I hope we all remember that this is not just a pledge to a flag, but to a symbol, to an ideal for our country, and it's really a pledge to each other. So please recite with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, please grant us wisdom as we meet here today. Please keep safe our responders and servicemen, both locally and all over the world. And please somehow give this country we all love some common sense as we go through the issues we're going through right now. Amen.
Amen. If you could join me down front for...
I did it last time.
So we get to do some really fun stuff today. We get to introduce the 8 and under gold all-star team from Los Alamitos girls softball. These 12 young ladies won the district champ in May. They came in 5th for the state tournament, and they just took 3rd in the region for the California State Games. They took home a bronze medal. So these are just amazing young ladies that have already experienced the Los Al competitiveness in our sports programs, and we're just very, very excited to see where they're going to be in 10 years. And I've got to tell you, young ladies, this last year, the graduating class of Los Alamitos High School, every single softball player received a college scholarship to go play softball someplace else. So it's something to work for, and it's not just about the game of softball, it's about the academics and the involvement in your community and everything else. So it's not too early to start thinking about that now, but we want to congratulate you, and we'll be calling you up. We have Haley Acosta. Morgan Fitzpatrick. Stay up right up here, okay? Tallulah, Ireland. Congratulations. Micaiah Galindo. Faith Fulsifer. Maya Agatep. Brooklyn Montgomery. Natalie Prophet. Congratulations. Olivia Magalanis. I am so sorry for the names. Madison Corey. Congratulations. Cameron Gill. And Danielle Urzua. And our wonderful coaches, Coach Candace Fitzpatrick. Coach Christine Morris. Coach Daryl Morris. Coach Sean Ireland. Coach Frank Johnson. Congratulations. And we saved the best and hardest last name. I'm going to try so hard. Coach Mike Barracochea. All right, so here's the future La Salle Dream Team. Thank you so much. Oh, I know. I was so excited. I'm the shortest one in the room.
Yeah.
No problem.
I only care about my kids.
I see. It's starting to become clear. I thought we were a team.
Thanks for coming, guys. Thanks for coming. You'll be back here in 12th grade for your government class. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's not so interesting of a meeting anymore. Exactly.
I guess it starts with
Good to go? Oh, we do? Oh, look at that.
Don't become unruly on your way out.
Okay,
please.
perfect.
How long was he here?
So we've got a very special internal celebration here of Gary celebrating 30 years. I think he started maybe when you were 10, something like that. Had to have been. So I'll read a little big background on Gary. Let's see. He began his career as a landscape architect, but soon realized being indoors was not for him. He started working part-time for the city of Seal Beach and then applied to La Salle, so he moved up in the world. Good. It was 1987 that Gary came to us and he rose through the ranks and has just become one of the most dependable people we have here. He is always the first one at an event, and I don't care if it's race on the base at 3 o'clock in the morning or wings, wheels, and rotors, and he's usually one of the last ones to leave. And he just quietly goes about doing his phenomenal job. He sets a standard that everybody else strives to live up to, and we're just so honored to have him in our city and to be able to celebrate the longevity that he is here and continues to stay here. So we want to bring him up and honor him the best way that we can with the plaque. That's fine. Come on.
Ask him.
He's 14. That's 7 of the last 10 years.
Not more than 30. All right. right, so we decided if we don't do this last presentation, it won't happen. But unfortunately, we have our finance director, Jason Alamon, is leaving us to move on to the city of Fountain Valley. Although we're so sad to see him go, it's a great catch for city of Fountain Valley. And in his few years here, he has done some things. We call him the magician every year. He finds those rabbits out of the hat, and if he can't pull one out, he finds a new hat. And he's been able to get our balanced budget, getting us financial awards that we've never been able to have here at the city, and has just absolutely set a new standard for our financial reporting and our budget programs and everything else. So we just want to wish Jason the absolute best. You can still come back and visit occasionally, and we just congratulate you on your step up. So thank you. Would you like to say a couple words?
Sure. So Los Alamitos is has been a wonderful place to work. It's a small city, but everyone has made me feel like family, and this is a place that will always be close and dear to my heart. And so I wanted to thank the staff and the residents for just being so welcoming, and I'm definitely going to miss Los Alamitos. Thank you.
That was good. Let's adjourn and go home.
Okay, oral communications at this time. Any individual in the audience may come forward. Oh, I'm so sorry. I knew that. We're going to go ahead and do a presentation by Republic Services talking about the organic waste recycling.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. My name is Jeff Snow. I'm with Republic Services, Municipal Services Director for Orange and San Bernardino County, and Organics Management Specialist for the company. Tonight we're introducing some new legislation here in the state of California. I assure you I am nowhere near as cute as those under 8-year-old girls, and my topic is not as fun either, but together we'll get through it. Trash has changed a lot in my lifetime. I grew up in Long Beach, just next door. We used to have our own cans, and several people would ride on the back of a truck and hand load everything. And for the most part, it all went to disposal. It was either buried in a landfill or burned in an incinerator. Even in 2017, incinerators are still alive and well with Surf in Long Beach. We are pleased that none of the material from the city of Los Alamitos is being burned any longer. Through the 70s and 80s, recycling started. Recycling is really that new. It just started in the early to mid 80s. Many homes had crates, and they were just recovering cans and bottles for the redemption value at local recycling centers, which are still prevalent today. In the 2000s, we started to automate the service, made it a lot safer for the public, a lot safer for our employees, and large-scale material recovery facilities, or MRFs, were built usually by the private companies like Republic Services to support multiple communities. Green waste continues to be used as daily cover at our landfills in Orange County, and the residual or trash goes to the landfills here in Orange County, either Irvine, Brea, or San Juan Capistrano. Today in 2017, we have very modern material recovery facilities, usually multiple MRF technologies. We have found that we can specialize waste stream recovery. Construction and demolition material 2x4s are very different than residential commingled recycling, so we've developed technologies and made investments to maximize diversion and keep as much of that material out of landfills as possible to improve the sustainability for our served communities like Los Alamitos. What it's all about now is organics, and organics are really any living matter. An apple is organic, grass is organic, flora and fauna, meat, dairy products, anything that's been alive is considered organic. And we have a number of new laws that are designed to get these organics out of the landfill system and help achieve higher and better uses when they become waste. Looking at the history of legislation, California remains a generation ahead of the rest of the United States of America. We were the first state to mandate diversion, and that was done by Governor Deukmejian back in 1989 with the landmark bill AB 939, requiring 50% diversion of materials from landfills and incinerators by the year 2000. Governor Schwarzenegger, 7 years later in 2006, signed AB 32, known as the Climate Change Plan, and that law is designed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to 1990 levels by the year 2020, which we're pleased to report we are doing very, very well and will exceed that goal. And really everything after that is in support of AB 32. In 2013, Governor Brown signed the mandatory commercial recycling bill, and today we're going to be talking about the organics bill, AB 1826, which applies to the commercial businesses in Los Alamitos. There's no impact to the residences from AB 1826. This is just the commercial businesses, and it's about diverting their food waste and other organic waste from the landfill. Why does the state want us to divert these materials from the landfill? When they decompose, they emit a pollution called methane. And I always say that the Hollywood star of greenhouse gas emissions is carbon. We're always hearing about carbon footprint, but last year with the methane leak in Porter Ranch from the gas company, we all became a lot more aware of the detrimental effects of methane in our atmosphere. This map shows methane emissions from organics and landfills in the U.S. So we can certainly look forward to cleaner air for ourselves and to cleaner air for our children and our future by doing a better job of getting these organics out of the landfill by compliance with AB 1826. So it's really about cleaner air, and it's about better managing resources. We shouldn't throw things that nature gives us away. If food waste was a country, it would be number 3 in the world in terms of pollution that it generates. Only China and the U.S. would be ahead of it. So AB 1826 is a phased-in law called mandatory organics recycling. It will be mandatory for commercial businesses in Los Alamitos to comply with this law to help us keep their organic material out of the landfill. Organics make up as much as 39% of everything that's going into the landfill. Pretty good estimates are that 30 million tons of food is thrown away in the state of California every year. Not pounds, 30 million tons. It's a lot of resources that God and nature are giving us that we can do a better job with. So the requirements for the City of Los Alamitos and your local government are to implement a source-separated recycling program. So businesses here in Los Alamitos will have a separate bin for their organics, exactly like your residents do. Your residents have 3 different carts, one for organics or their green waste, one for the recyclables, and one for the residue or trash. This law will start to mirror what our residents have achieved by our businesses. It will be the city's responsibility to enforce. I don't believe in fines as the best motivator, but the law gives the city the right to institute fines and to charge fees for the cost of recovering this material and environmentally recycling it. There's outreach and education responsibilities as well as monitoring. And two words that I know are very difficult for our great elected officials, it's an unfunded mandate. It's an unfunded mandate, not unlike a lot of things that come across your offices. It's a phased-in program. It started in April 2016 with just very large generators, 8 cubic yards a week or more. How much is that? One of those big, huge dumpsters that you see behind your businesses is 3 yards. So 8 yards is about 3 of those full of nothing but organics. So very few accounts qualified under Tier 1, usually just universities, big institutions. I don't think we had any in Los Alamitos. We are currently in Tier 2, which really started at the beginning of this year. We're a little bit behind, but we're on the same track as most cities in Orange County in terms of implementation. At this current tier, any business that's generating 4 cubic yards of organics or more weekly needs to be participating in the program. And then in just 15 short months from now, Tier 3 will start, and that will be any business generating 4 cubic yards of any kind of material, which effectively will be almost all of the customers in Los Alamitos. Some very small customers won't start until January of 2020 at Tier 4. And there are 2 bills that are fail-safe. The most important right now is Senate Bill 605, which has already passed, already signed into law. And the fail-safe is that if Cal Recycle, who manages our environmental regulations at the municipal level, if Cal Recycle fails in AB 1826, if together we fail to get at least 50% of the organics out of the landfill, the Air Board will take over jurisdiction. So most city councils don't consider that a desirable consequence. Certainly my industry doesn't. Cal Recycle, they are solid waste and recycling experts. We'd like to have them continue to govern us. But I just mention this because it shows how serious the state is about us being successful and effective in this legislation. So how do we do it? The United States EPA put out a food recovery hierarchy, and our proposed program for the city of Los Alamitos aligns with this hierarchy very closely. At the top, we want to reduce as much excess food and organic waste as possible. And then feeding hungry people is more cost effective and a higher and better use than recycling the material industrially through anaerobic digestion or through compost. So our roughly 9 million tons of organics in the LA Orange County area, today almost all of it's being landfilled. Our goal with AB 1826 is to move it up that hierarchy as much as possible and remove it all from the landfill. So our first step is through source reduction, and then next we want to use edible, wholesome food resources to feed hungry people. We all live in Orange County. We think of our county as very affluent, which it is, but we have 1 out of 7 people who are defined as food insecure. I don't think it's necessarily a homeless issue. The top 3 categories of food insecure in Orange County are seniors on fixed incomes, children, and college students. College students barely making tuition and books will often take shortcuts when it comes to their own nutrition and health. So a really amazing coalition has been developed in the County of Orange, supported by the County of Orange, called Waste Not OC Coalition. And in this coalition, the OC Food Bank, Second Harvest Food Bank, over 200 pantries, the food service industry giants, including U.S. Foods and Cisco, and then waste haulers like Republic Services, are all collaborating on how we can work together to achieve an end to hunger while getting the food resources out of the landfill in an efficient way. A first ever in the United States of America is this picture in the bottom left corner. That is a Food Finders, which is a food recovery agency headquartered in Lakewood, California. And my company, Republic Services, sponsored this truck, and this truck will be working here in Los Alamitos, recovering wholesome, edible food from your commercial businesses and getting it with the food being handled safely to help end hunger through distribution in local pantries throughout Orange County. So I like to say we shouldn't feed machines before we feed people first. And our program proposed to the City of Los Alamitos uses this as a foundation as we all approach diverting food waste from landfills the right way through the highest and best use. One of our newest partners is Yellow Cab Company, and at the Claim Jumper at 11 o'clock at night when they close down the salad bar, Food Finders and the OC Food Bank may not have trucks out on the street, but Yellow Cab will come to them and pick up that wholesome food and immediately bring it to one of the food banks. So we really have this incredible resource 24/7 to where commercial establishments that choose to donate can donate easily. We're part of the Orange County 211 system, and we're pleased that the Orange County Board of Supervisors has unanimously voted to provide funding for Waste Not OC the past 2 years to help all of the cities in Orange County achieve compliance with AB 1826 and to use surplus food to help end hunger. So our program overall for AB 1826 includes waste characterizations. We hired a third-party firm, Mariposa Consulting, who did characterizations or dumpster diving at all your businesses to assess how much organics each one had and help determine which tier of eligibility they'll start. We will be offering source reduction consulting through tools made available by Cal Recycle and the EPA. Waste Not OC and our Food Finders truck will be deployed and available for Los Alamitos, and then we will provide all the necessary equipment, including the commercial bins and carts. And I've been told that that my samples are not very accurate by size. These are usually a lot larger. But the residential 65-gallon carts are actually a really great container for businesses to use. They're mobile, they're light enough, they're easy to maneuver around kitchens. So all this equipment will be provided, as well as donation materials similar to what Amazon Fresh uses to deliver groceries from people that are buying it online. The material will be brought to only permitted solid waste facilities. We want to assure our partners at the City of Los Alamitos cradle to grave custody. So we have 2 different solutions for recycling of these materials. The first one uses a technology called CORE, which just stands for Central Organics Recycling Equipment. And customers here will have source-separated organics bins, which we will have a dedicated food waste route and food waste truck with some special gaskets to help avoid leakage. They'll collect the material from your businesses, and they will bring it to a facility in Orange called CORE. And the CORE facility uses a machine that's actually made in Italy called Dota, and it creates a food slurry from the raw food waste product. This food slurry or food shake, I won't open the lid because it's rather odoriferous. Most cities are glad this facility is not in their city limits. But once that food slurry is made, it's put into a tanker truck and it is transported to Carson, California, where we have a partnership with the Los Angeles County Sanitation District. And our modern wastewater plants have a technology called anaerobic digestion that works very much like the human body. We have enzymes in our digestive system that help us release energy in the form of calories from the food that we consume that lets us move about and hug and love and do all the things that make life so fulfilling. So from this food slurry, the anaerobic digesters at the wastewater plant recover biogas that they can use for green renewable energy. And this entire very large plant in Carson is almost completely powered now by the biogas green energy that's produced from the food waste. So this is option number one, and this is a recent Orange County Register article showing how it works. This particular example is from the UCI cafeteria. It's picked up, made into slurry, brought to the wastewater plant, and green energy is made. The other one is using food waste composting under a cover with negative air for odor control. And Republic Services has 50% ownership in Agrimin. Agrimin is California's largest composter. You may be familiar with them because they manage and maintain the Los Alamitos base. And we have a facility in Chino, California that we have gotten permit for food waste composting undercover. The compost is then turned into soil blends or organic certified soil amendments. This particular one is one of my favorite stories. Albertsons Grocery partners with Waste Not OC, and they donate millions of pounds of surplus food that they don't sell for whatever reason to the Second Harvest Food Bank in Feeding America. What can't be donated, which is also millions of pounds, we collect and bring to our compost facility where we bag it under the Albertsons name and help them tell the story of their local sustainability loop, and they can sell this product back in their own stores to help tell that marketing story. Steve, if you So the excess apple can be turned into green energy, or it can be turned into a compost soil amendment to enrich the earth so that we can assure future generations of apples to feed us. So in closing, we do have the challenges of an unfunded mandate. This council, we will request that you take action at a future meeting to adopt and approve a program and rate structure so that the City of Los Alamitos can commence compliance with AB 1826. It will really just be a pilot program because we only have about 15 months until the next tier. And we have had multiple meetings with staff in determining the cost and rate structure and in assuring that we have true-ups throughout this pilot program to assure fairness to both partners, the city, the commercial customers, and Republic Services. The overall cost is about $130,000 a year for this current Tier 2, divided between service and processing. Recycling this material is 3 or 4 times more expensive than landfilling it. We are challenged with capacity issues. There's not much organics capacity right now. We're pleased to have secured capacity for Los Alamitos through the Corps and Agrimin Chino for the next 15 months. Really 2 ways of allocating the rates, and I'll just use the words a right way and a wrong way. The right way that has shown to be very effective is that since this legislation applies to the whole commercial sector, the rate is shared equally amongst all commercial customers. That reduces the burden for everybody. We get very high participation. The city can expect full compliance, and it really minimizes cost impacts to all businesses in Los Alamitos. The wrong way is to charge the actual so-called users or food establishments, Catella Deli or Sizzler or whoever it might be. In that case, cities that have done that have had very, very little compliance, because now we're going to them saying, number one, you need to run your business differently. We're going to ask you to handle your trash differently, and on top of it, it's going to cost you 3 times as much. They just simply won't do it. So then the city's faced with having to implement higher and higher fines until those fines finally outweigh the cost. So I will share that we feel very strongly and have experience that cities that allocate the rate across the commercial sector have had lots of success and minimize the burden on the impacted businesses. So following that food recovery hierarchy, this apple will do a lot better with it in the future than just throwing it in the landfill, where it creates very noxious methane pollution. We'll help to end hunger through the Waste Not OC Coalition. We'll create green energy together, or compost, to assure crops for future generations. We've got capacity secured for the city of Los Alamitos. At a future date, council will be asked to adopt and approve a program, and I'm open to any questions that you might have. I know it's a lot, and there's a lot of environmental legislation and regulations that continues to come from Sacramento. Whether or not personally we agree they're the right things or wrong things to do, this one is a law, and we encourage all of our city partners to do our best to comply with it and have the best program, resulting in the highest and best use of our resources.
Any questions from up here?
Yeah, I got a question for you. So obviously great program and concept, but I was a little bit confused by your slides at the end, because it's about a 9% increase to the businesses. But the dilemma you posed in the last 3 slides was, hey, do you pass it on to the business and have them take on this burden, or do you share it between business and residential? What is specifically your perspective?
Specifically, Mayor Pro Tem Edgar, no residential impact. But you might have an auto dealer that doesn't have that much organics in their bins. So the part on the right would be, okay, we're not going to charge them anymore because they don't have that much organics, and they're not going to be eligible until the next tier, 15 months from now. That would place the whole $130,000 cost on just those restaurants, which I'll put forth. They don't generate the food waste. It's all the technicians and mechanics from the auto dealer that go eat at Catella Deli and leave food on their plates. We all generate commercial food waste. Therefore, we believe that the whole commercial sector should fairly share in the cost assessment.
Thank you. Can just to get a little bit better perspective, to personalize it to real numbers, would you be able to just give an approximate of a business that has 3 of those bins, as you used an example, each one being about 3 cubic feet, right? So there are 9 cubic feet. How much does a business pay for a bin like that per month for just one of them, or 3 on average? Just because I'm just curious what 9% increase is to a business trying to survive. And it's definitely not an issue that I'm pointing towards you. It's just I'm just trying to get the hard reality of what is this impact of our local businesses?
It's a great question, and we did some back of the napkin math together using roughly 700 commercial accounts in your city by your total annual revenue. The impact for this phase is going to be somewhere in the range of $15 a month, about $3.75 per week for the average account. Your smaller accounts will be a lot less than that. Your very large accounts will be more than that.
$375 a week.
No, $3.75 a week.
So like one of those big restaurants, it's what we're talking about is really $15 a month more. Seems like it would be much more than that.
Your average account in Los Alamitos, their waste bill is about $240 a month. So that's the $15 is a monthly differential. A large account is going to be
Okay.
more.
And then are you guys going to the local, I mean, since this is a commercial issue, have you guys thought about going to the local Chamber of Commerce and providing this update to them just to give them an idea? Because it's nothing that we are sitting back like cheering for. This is another state unfunded mandate. Unfortunately, it's not getting passed directly to the city. It's actually going all the way down to the users and the business community itself. I think would. You're not trying to win them over, but at least they would have a better idea. I'm concerned they're going to personalize this to our ability to negotiate a good trash contract, which then ends up being, hey, how? And the reality is that there's not something that you control. It's not something the city could control, but it helps them, I think, better understand really what the situation is. My recommendation, I don't know if you've met with them, but I think it would help us. I would be honest with you.
Agreed, and I believe that our municipal manager, Michelle Clark, did a chamber luncheon connect meeting with AB 1826 as a focus topic a number of months ago.
Excuse me, I was there, and she didn't address this specifically. She talked about recycling in the green bins, but it wasn't to this detail, and I walked out of there not knowing there was going to be a financial impact to the businesses, and it was probably about 6 to 9 months ago. So a refresher course would be greatly appreciated.
This is a good presentation. I follow this a little bit. I haven't seen anything put together where I could, if I was a business here that did this type of stuff, I could calculate what my potential impact would be. Just be helpful.
Yeah, happy to do that.
Thank you.
Josh, anything? One?
So thank you, Jeff, for coming here. A few questions. So I think you answered one of them. There will be a cost increase to the commercial generators, correct? Now, and I think in your presentation, you also noted that multi-family residential, I guess, apartments and associations, those are commercial accounts as well.
Yes, if they have
so it's not just duplexers or a single-family dwelling. Those are residential.
Yeah,
but
usually 5 dwellings and above have the commercial service.
Okay, and then I think one of the things that happened in a prior public hearing, we have stated we're not enforcing the second bin, which would presumably be for the organics. Does that pose a problem for you if we just have a single 3 cubic yard bin that commingles non-organic and organic?
So, great question, Councilman. Multifamily is exempted from having to source separate their organics.
Okay, fantastic. And then you said there were 700 commercial accounts, but then there was a study that you'd done dumpster diving. Do you have the breakdown of which of the 700, how many of those are actually organic waste generating commercial accounts? Because I think that would be helpful when you come before us, because
Right.
We're asking our commercial accounts to share the burden, then it may be some proportion that, it might be unnecessarily high for them, but it may, why penalize an automotive? Why penalize a technology firm that generates no organic waste? And I understand the argument about there's people there that generate it, but then they also go to homes, wherever they might live and generate organic waste, and it gets handled there as well. So when you come forward to us, the 700 commercial accounts, I would really like to know how many of those are, and what level of organic waste do they generate?
In the current Tier 1 and Tier 2, there's only about 20 accounts that are called qualified or eligible that will begin this 15-month pilot. Tier 3, that 20 accounts will, as if on steroids, expand to several hundred.
I'm struggling. So 20 accounts out of some sample, or what does 20 accounts mean? There's 700.
There are only about 20 individual commercial accounts who are generating 4 cubic yards of organic waste or more per week.
I got you. All right, I get that. Okay. And then let's see. And if you can bring forward to us those cities that did not implement a broad fee across all the commercial generators, but those ones that had, I'll say, targeted ones, that'd be really good to know, I think, so we can understand if that is really indeed a path we should not go down. Because I'd like to understand who those are and what their lessons that they learned from that. Thank you.
You are welcome. City of Oakland was the first city to adopt a program and charge the users directly, and their chambers was filled with protesters, and their streets were, as it almost put all the restaurants and food establishments out of business. So there have been few since then. We are informed that all of the waste management partner cities in Orange County, 100% of those cities are on the commercial sector-wide fair share program, and the majority of the Republic community partners are also on the commercial one. Council may go in either direction. I see justification for both, but what we can tell you with a high level of expertise is if you charge it all on those 20 accounts, divide 130,000 by 20, and you can see that's going to be a huge increase for them. They won't do it until you put in ordinances and fines that are even higher than those charges, and most cities just don't want to have that relationship with their businesses.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I just had a couple clarifications. Will special events being exempt from this?
Special events are not exempt from it. So special events, we will work with city staff as part of their permitting process to try to implement source-separated organic recycling.
So when we have the temporary trash cans out there, we're going to have a second one for organic? And that's including like St. Hedwig does their Oktoberfest, anything?
If they're anticipated to generate more than 4 cubic yards, yes, special events is addressed in the legislation, and there is no carve-out for them.
Okay. And this might be a question for staff. We have a lot of commercial accounts that have the permanent waste enclosures that can't fit an additional bin. So how does that get accommodated? I know over at Starbucks here, they have just enough room to fit their bins and not another bin. So how is that going to work?
In some cases, we will exchange. And a key part of what we're doing is if we add 6 yards of organic service, we're going to take away 6 yards of trash service. So there's a lot of right sizing. So their total generation won't change, so their enclosure should still be sufficient. But instead of 2 trash bins, it might be 1 trash, 1 organic bin.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, now we're going to go on to oral communications. At this time, any individual in the audience may come forward to speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Remarks are to be limited to not more than 5 minutes per speaker.
Underwood.
Okay. My name is John Underwood. Mayor, members of the council. Been a little bit of a while since I've been before you, but I have been very active and diligently working at LATV on many levels. But I feel compelled to come forward tonight. This, as you know, is a second reading of an ordinance 2017-02 to dissolve the LATV Commission. And I feel I need to say a few words about it before you proceed. I want there to be a clear context from the commissioner's point of view, what has transpired over the last few years. There have been some handles placed upon us which we feel are at very least unfair. The ordinance would dissolve the Los Alamitos Cable Commission. This is after, of course, a year of so-called suspension. And I feel that is a disservice, at the very least, to those who serve diligently and in many ways effectively on the LATV Commission. What I see happening here with this ordinance is a city staff generated move to eliminate community input, and public transparency over what has been, over 30 years, a public trust, LATV, and used the LATV Commission essentially as a scapegoat in order to justify the government consolidation and control over community TV and its assets. In the so-called LATV Vision Study of 2015, we all remember that, conducted by two outside, and I will say commercial TV producers, the council paid, if you recall, $18,000 for these gentlemen who we feel provided misinformed observations about the Cable Commission in statements that referred to the Commission as in disarray. And another quote, produced very little program content. They were thanked by staff at that time and dismissed without even being asked to explain their conclusions in a public forum setting. And I want to address those, especially two characterizations that I mentioned. First of all, the LATV Commission is not responsible for producing content. Let's be clear about that. It was required, our mandate was, according to our bylaws, to oversee operations, promote, and monitor those cable operations on behalf of the City Council, to be the eyes and ears of the Council, as other commissions. It was, in fact, the City Manager who, since his initiation in January of 2014, proceeded to eliminate community-based program funding support, with the exception, perhaps, of sports. We lost our matching funding we had previously been happy to receive from a previous city manager. That was all gone. That affected greatly our ability to produce programming or to funnel money to programming. As to the claim of a commission in disarray, in the time I was on the Cable Commission, we presented to the Council through the City Manager's office no less than 3 comprehensive general field and studio operations upgrades, a workshop training plan, a complete top-to-bottom policy guidelines overhaul, a number of lesser specific and initiatives designed to enhance studio facilities, public access production, and community outreach, including a list of 14 community organizations and individuals who had stated in writing that they were willing to come forward and produce programming in our studio and pay for it as public access producers. These proposals were forwarded to staff, usually by unanimous vote of all commissioners present. And nevertheless, all of these initiatives, except for a few incidental housekeeping expenditures, I'll just say, sent through the current city manager to the council for consideration and support, were denied or never reached the council for consideration. The commission itself tried diligently to push these movements through the city manager's office and get to the council members, to the point where a number of us felt we needed to go directly to the council members for support. Staff further states that as another justification for the dissolution of the Cable Commission, that the commission had not held a meeting since July of 2015. Well, if you recall, our meetings were suspended. We were not allowed to have meetings. And the 2 meetings in that period between July and October or so, when we were suspended, though both of those meetings were arbitrarily canceled by the city manager himself for what he called lack of business. I assure you that we members of the council had a great deal of business to conduct, and we indicated that to the city manager in that time, and we indicated it in writing in memos to that effect. We were in effect obstructed from moving forward by staff. And as such, these community-minded volunteers, commissioners, you're about to dump, do not deserve the onerous mislabel of a dysfunctional commission in order to suit the policy aims of an overly controlling staff as we see it at that time. Finally, the last whereas of tonight's second reading ordinance pronounces a cable television commission is no longer a necessity to the city. We disagree. I submit a reconstituted and energetic cable commission is needed now more than ever. I believe in local community television as a powerful force in this community, and I believe that our Los Alamitos cable operations manager, Larry Strother, believes that too. And that is why I have maintained my relationship with LATV and our operations manager and worked diligently to make it happen, to make LATV a better place for everybody in the community. But I observe there are still...
Excuse me, for a point of order, you do need to wrap it up. You have a time limit of 5 minutes, and we've expanded that, but you do need to wrap it up,
May I
please.
request one more minute?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I observe there are still many shortcomings at Los Al TV. Technical problems, inefficiencies, scheduling irregularities, financial issues, and lost opportunities. One lone operating manager cannot and should not be expected or should not be really allowed to handle all of this burden alone. An invigorated commission or some like advisory body should oversee the direct oversight of Los Alamitos Television and should be able to provide community outreach, financial oversight, and regulate policy for LATV and unburden the operations manager from having to do so on his own. Another cable commissioner pointed out in a letter to the council just before the commission was suspended when he said, at the most basic level, the cable commission needs to protect the needs and interests of the taxpayer and monitor LATV for adherence to its own public access, education, and government mandates, as well as council expectations, unquote. With the passage of this ordinance tonight, you will be removing that impartial oversight and public eyesight from a very important public institution we all know in this town as Los Al TV. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the City Council. My name is David Railbrook, and I live on Maple Street here in Los Alamitos, as well as I own CrossFit Los Alamitos. I'm here tonight to urge you to approve item 12, letter B, on tonight's agenda. At the last City Council meeting, I tried to make it clear that the general plan and zoning layouts for our city are unfair. I know this item is not about zoning specific to recreational uses, but it does fall underneath the umbrella of the study. And at the last meeting, I tried to make it clear, regardless of what happens to my business, what has happened is unfair to all recreational uses in the city and any potential that would want to come into our city. The zoning changes made in 2015 deemed every recreational use that had a CUP to now be a legal non-conforming use. This is a surprise to all recreational use businesses in our city that I have discovered, and as I have spoken with many of the owners of these businesses. This essentially made it impossible for any of these type of businesses to expand, and as they became successful, as well as made it impossible for any recreational use business owner to sell their business, and has basically made these businesses only as valuable as the current owner is willing to stay with their business. Somehow the city has created a new, very small, limited industrial zone for recreational uses. The zone consists of about 4 to 6 addresses or 3 buildings where Kidnastics and Champions Quest lie, and another 3 businesses lie next to the post office. If safety of our community members was concerned, then the zoning code changes basically set this recreational use or LI zone in one of the busiest sections of our city. There's constant truck traffic from Canal and other industrial businesses in that area, as well as a steady flow of traffic going in and out of the post office. The way the code is set up right now, the city is essentially saying we don't want any recreational uses in the city, except for in these little tiny areas, or in this specific little tiny area. It's as if we put all the gas stations in our city in one intersection and said, if you live across town and want to get gas, you'll have to drive all the way across town to the gas stations on these corners specifically. The way the code is set up right now, there is an obvious demand for recreational uses in our city. Our city is a residential city that is supposed to be business friendly. I don't know about you, but as someone who's just got married and is planning to raise my family here, I want recreational uses in my city. I want more options for myself, my wife, and my future kids. I don't want big rigs and industry taking over this town. Again, there's an obvious demand from this community for recreational uses. I'm not asking that we open up the city for any and all recreational type uses, but the CUP process should be available to these businesses. If the businesses within 500 feet have no issue and the community supports it, then the city council should support it too. The city is full of vacant businesses. Landlords would love the opportunity to lease to spaces like to businesses like these. It's obvious that the landlords in retail space don't want these types of business uses as well. Take, for instance, the Los Al Gym, formerly CrossFit Seal Beach North, for example. The space next door to them has been vacant for 2+ years, and nobody wants to move into that space because recreational uses make a little more noise than regular retail businesses do. As well, because of the zoning changes, the Los Al Gym is unable to lease that space for recreational use and thus cannot expand and grow their business, and now the landlord is out 2+ years of income. I urge the citizens and businesses of Los Alamitos to get behind this and write to the city council members. Maybe you go to one of these businesses now, but maybe if another opened up closer to you, then it might be more convenient to you. Or maybe you don't go to the recreational uses in the area at all, but go to outside of Los Alamitos because you don't like the options we have here. And maybe if there were more options, you would keep your business inside the city. Maybe you live closer to Cypress and go to a facility in Cypress because it's closer to you. I know I speak on behalf of most, if not all, recreational uses in this city. And we are asking for change. We are asking for the opportunity to be successful and the ability for growth. You may say that the city paid for a general plan and it should stand as is. We say that document is a living, breathing document and should reflect the desires and needs of our city. And I have signatures from several businesses in the city supporting this change. You guys making a change to the zoning codes because it's unfair to our businesses. And as a community member, I think it's unfair for me as a community member that I have to only go to this one little area to do any kind of recreational use. I want options. The community deserves it. So I'd like to give this to you guys so that you guys have it for your record and know that there is support and this is only a portion of it. I can get more. There's nobody here to speak against this. And there's tons of support for it. So I hope you guys see that. Again, this is not about me. This is about everybody, all the businesses in the community who are recreational use. They deserve a chance. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Doug Chambers, and I'd like to echo the comments of the previous speaker in favor of reconsidering this zoning issue. I won't reiterate his comments about the undue and unfair restriction this poses on recreational small businesses, including the restriction of their ability to transfer and or sell their businesses, or the unfair restriction it poses on their ability to expand. But I would like to add to that this is places an undue burden and unreasonably restricts their ability to find suitable locations, and that it restricts it to such a narrow zone that that gives an unfair advantage to those landowners within that space, those landlords, and gives an unfair advantage to the existing businesses within that very narrow zone. Additionally, I'd like to point out that these types of businesses enrich our community. It draws consumers from outside districts into the area and the residual revenues that brings along with it. It also enriches our community in that by providing these wellness type of offerings, it advances health and wholesome activities. And so I reiterate the previous speaker's comments, asking for reconsideration to allow a CPU for these businesses. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'll go ahead and close oral communications and bring it back to council comments. And I'll start with Josh this time.
Yeah, be quick. Attended Los Alamitos Orange County Fair Day. It was a great event. The Chamber of Commerce breakfast, our last one, where we had our Assemblymember Travis Allen speak. And I also want to give my congratulations to Councilmember Murphy and Mrs. Murphy, their wedding.
Thank you.
Richard, you're next.
Next. I thought that was just for the weekend, by the way. You know, it was been a shock to me, but I attended the ACCOC meeting with Lou Correa, got his thoughts. You know, he's a very respected congressman, kind of seen as a middle-of-the-road guy, and it was interesting to see his thoughts on where we are. Also was able to attend National Night Out on a humid night that I think reminded all of us why we live here and don't live in Houston, Texas. And it was a tremendous turnout, Chief, and I think it's a testament to our police force and Seal Beach's police force that all the citizens wanted to come out on such a muggy night to show their support. Was able to attend the Los Alamitos Youth Baseball Championship, where our mayor wowed them with a strike from on the mound. Very, very impressive. And as Josh says, I did get married last week, much to my surprise, but want to thank my colleagues who were able to attend and the staff for a lovely card that's already been posted in a prominent place of the house. As an aside, I also want to thank all those who constantly ask Tina, when's the date, or more basically, why aren't you married yet? You were a big help over the last 2 years. And finally, we're almost done on the boulevard, so please keep supporting your local merchants. We have 2 new merchants who are selling good food at LA Waffle and the Fifth Avenue Bagel. I sacrificed and tried them both myself, and I hope they do well. Thank you.
Thank you. Warren.
Oh, thank you. So I attended the National Night Out as well, the Chamber Breakfast, where Josh presided and did a very good job at that. I did attend former Mayor Murphy, Councilmember Murphy's betrothal, and it was quite amazing that 5 of us up here went out, well, 4 of us went out there to support him. I think basically, I think to witness it, to make sure it really happened. But I do want to offer congratulations to Richard and his wife. And then I attended the vector control meeting last week, and there was a presentation by a media firm that they had retained. And it's really kind of exciting, I guess, as far as West Nile gets in terms of there's billboards around the county where they could buy them, and it just lists the mosquito as Orange County's deadliest predator. So just look out for those. And I hope that our staff could work with vector control to see if there's some public service spaces we can get on the bus stops and put those out there. But we're not as impacted as I think as La Habra is a hot spot, but I think it's been a very good year as far as that goes for us. With that, back to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Trey.
Yeah, I would also say thank you, Rich, and Tina. It was a great ceremony. We were very honored to be there, and you're a very gracious host to everybody, so thank you so much. We had an opportunity to dedicate our bike trail out on Coyote Creek, so I wanted to thank staff for setting that up, Brett and Steve and everybody out there, Corey too. Just thank you. That was so many years. That's putting a close to a complete project there, the Coyote Creek Park, and an unbelievable bike trail. And I think, you know, I guess I just get a tremendous amount of people telling us thank you for all the work that you guys did on that. beautification project on Los Alamitos Boulevard is continuing on, and what I was hoping to be able to do, City Manager, in just a moment, when I get to the end of the comments, if Mayor, if you'd indulge me, I just would like to talk a little bit about it. I know some of us are getting a lot of calls. A lot of people are concerned, are we going to get that project done before school starts? And I see Shelley out in the crowd from the newspaper and her article, and so I'd like to be able to give you some direct information that potentially can get out to the community, let them know how focused we are to make sure that project finishes on time. A couple other things. Coming up here on Friday, we have the West Orange County Legislative Meeting, so anybody that's out in the community that wants to meet their assembly members, potentially Congress, State Senate, and City Council members for this area, this Friday, they're going to be having an event at Cypress Senior Center. I think it's at 5:30 p.m., and I just encourage everybody to get out there. And then on the 26th, Saturday, Casa Youth Shelter is having its poker night in Rossmore at the Cabot House. And if anybody's interested, please contact the city. It's for a great cause for the youth center. A couple other things. Participated in an organizational assessment. The city council had approved a budget for some consultants to come through and see how we could be more cost effective in the way that we're operating within the government. And so each one of us have had to individually meet with the consulting group and give our feedback and input, focusing primarily on public works and parks and recreation as a way to look for synergies there. And I really appreciate Corey and Steve and both of their organizations for just boldly looking at, hey, how could we do business better? It's always tough when you got two departments operating at the highest level and they're still looking at each other going, hey, I think we could even be more cost effective. So I think that's a great service to the community, and I wanted to thank you guys. I went to the National Night Out. I anchored the event, so the other council members got there early when it was muggy. When I got there, it was beautiful. I had, the chief was very gracious, and Chief, I wanted to thank you, and I wanted to thank the Los Alamitos Police Department, who were out there in force, and Westcom. I had an opportunity to walk around and talk to them. And with all the stuff going on in our community and the really tough times that we've had, Chief, you're doing a great job. Council's 100% behind our PD and yourself, and we wanted to thank you. And we always wonder if there's any more that we could do to help and be a part of it. But you see what's going on in the nation, and we just it's hard to even relate with that because we love our PD. So with that, the Los Alamitos Beautification Project, just to kind of close out, Mayor, I had talked on Friday with the city manager. I'd been getting a lot of calls with concerns with traffic flow. And, this council has been focused for almost 8 years to get this project through, and it's going to be unbelievable. And the thing that we didn't want to have is a concern with everybody in the school district that's got to take their kids to the high school, that they would come through and have a potential issue with the traffic. And anybody that was around 2 weeks ago got to see, and now even starting when we're doing these crosswalks, that seems to be a really invasive process that closes off half of a street, and it really takes it down to its minimal form. So I'd ask the staff to be prepared for this question, and I also was asking if we could have potentially the contractor come and see if there was any information or feedback that the council could provide without having a discussion or debate on the project, so that we don't infringe an item not agendized. But we might as well head this off because the school's going to be starting in a week and a half. So City Manager, could you help me with that?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Edgar. We do have our city engineer, Dave Hunt. We'll give an update on the latest for Los Alamitos beautification. And the contractor's foreman is next to David to help him with any questions that might come up as well. So, David, give an update.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, these pictures were taken today, so I'll kind of run through where we're going, and then I'll talk about the schedule near the end. You can see the concrete curbs, the pavers, the asphalt, that goes up to the curbs have all been constructed along the whole reach. The landscaped areas in the middle, the irrigation lines are in, electrical conduit, that are stubbed out into that are done. The fill material, the new fill materials in there for the plants. Like you talked about a couple weeks ago, we started the crosswalk phase. The first phase, we did narrow it down to one lane in each direction going north. And we did that so that the second phase we're working on this week, they would have 2 lanes open, and so it wouldn't create the conflict. So we had 1 week, we were down to 1 lane. On our side streets like this is Florista, we went all the way across the side streets and closed those down, so they're all opened up. On the main street, Los Al Boulevard, like I say, we paved the middle section in there, and now this week we're working on this leftover piece out there. We'll kind of go through the walkthrough on that when we get to it. So today also they're saw cutting out there. This is up at Cerritos Avenue. They'll saw cut today and tomorrow. To get that, and the removals will start. This is in the midsection where we're going to have a crosswalk going across. They have to do some concrete pouring, some pavers in there. So that's something they're working on also this week and next. So the overall schedule is for this week. So they're saw cutting the crosswalks that are out there. Again, 2 lanes will be open out there. There may be a slight time where we might close temporary just down to 1, but it'll be in the midday. But for most of it, you have 2 lanes open. Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll remove the asphalt. Then Thursday, they'll pour the concrete, and then it will be open next Monday. So that's Monday. School's going to open up on Wednesday, so the crosswalks will all be opened up. And they will actually have the intersections open up there, like pretty much full width in the intersection and there, so to help it with the school. On the week of the 28th, they'll be planting the trees and shrubs, and we're talking about doing that from the west side of the street, so we can open up most of the east side of the street where we have the traffic for the school in the morning to open up, so we can kind of free that up into there. They'll also be working on the Farham and Kimmont intersection. That's part of this job. That'll be done during that week. Week after that, we've got some electrical conduits. Those go in after the trees and shrubs are in, and with the up lights that are in the median island, along with the monument signs at each end of the street. The week of September 11th, slurry seal will go in with the traffic loops, and on the 18th, which is a Monday, that's when they do the striping and that. The slurry seal, the traffic loops, the striping, those will be done in the evening, so that will have less impact on the daytime traffic. Slurry sealing causes some chaos if you do it during the day, because you can't have cars drive across it, the first hour or two. So if we do it in the evening, it'll be opened up, and we can do one side of the street, and then we can go back and do the other side after it cures. So we have a system worked out for that. And as you can see, we have a lot of the left turn lanes and stuff that are open. Even some of them are operational now. We've opened them up. And as things get finished, we kind of open them up for that. If there's not going to be a construction worker in the area, we start opening those things up. That's out into there. So as we mentioned before, the schedule, as you see, the contractor had 80 working days to work, or 75 working days to work on this project. We did give him 5 extra days when we found the concrete buried underneath the street that in some 1972 plans we had showed that the concrete was removed, and apparently it wasn't. So that took us some extra time to get rid of that. So his actual closing date is September 19th, which is back to that schedule. We have one outstanding item that will take beyond that, and that is the street lights that will go into the poles of the street lights. Those are on back order, and what used to take 6 to 7 weeks to get are now up to 13, 14 weeks. So the job will be complete. When those come in, the contractor will come in, put those in, and hook those up. It'll take one day of time to put the poles in, and so that will have very little disturbance to the traffic. It'll be one lane, and typically be like in the left turn pockets and stuff like that where they are. The contractor and the inspectors and I, we've talked about school opening and how to best do that. The headache up there at Los Al and Cerritos, it backs up. We're trying to open up as many of those lanes as we can during that time. Move all the work on the west side to try and free up that so that the east side has more free-flowing traffic on there. Yes, the crosswalks were a pain for that 1 week. They shouldn't be that kind of a pain this week because they'll have 2 lanes open, so you won't experience that. That's why we separated the 2 zones, times out. And so it's it'll go very smoothly from here on out as far as that goes. And you'll be seeing the boulders come in, the plants come in, and then the lights come in. So you actually start seeing some greenery showing up, and it'll be there. And at the end, when we slurry seal the street, it'll darken it all up. The lines will be nice and bright on there, and this will be a nice product when we're done. I do have Ernie B.S. here. He's the foreman out there on the job site. He's out there every day with his crew to help me answer questions that come up.
Great. Thank you. Just a couple questions, then I'll turn over to the council. The payment, the final payment for this project, knowing that they have the light poles and Steve and I talked earlier today, and the tree that doesn't come in for some period of time. When does are you guys incented to finish as fast as possible because you want your final payment, or do they get some sort of payment before then? I'm just trying to.
Well, they will get all their payment that they deserve up, when they finish the project. And the only thing that'd be outstanding at that point is for the street lights, which, we don't pay for those until they show up. And then the 5% retention, which they have to wait for 35 days after we approve all the construction items. So they will be out some money until that point, until it shows up, but it'll be a small piece compared to the whole $1.6 million that they're getting.
And then the other question is that when you showed the week-by-week sequence, and you had the electrical conduit and some of the stuff happening in the 2 or 3 weeks out, any possibility of trying to get more than one type of crew out there at a time and work on the insides of the islands and while you're doing the saw cutting and concrete pouring there?
Well, we need to put the trees and shrubs in first, and so we got to make sure that everything was ready out there. So you have to that in, and have the crews out there. So I guess I'll leave that up to you and how long that actually takes to put electrical lines in and all that. That's a whole separate crew you have.
Well, if you were to do the both projects at the same time, the trees and the crosswalks, the traffic would be really down to one lane, and it'll be worse than what it was last week. We can't. We need enough room for our landscapers to put in the trees, and we need enough room to pour the crosswalks. There's too much activity at one time taking place. I mean, and the traffic's horrendous out there, and we won't be able to work as far as safe for my men and also for the public. So
okay. Yeah, that was a suggestion that one of my neighbors had too. I just thought I'd pass that one on to you. That's why we're doing it this way.
Yeah, it's just too much.
I can check that one off. So, I would also say the idea of kind of shifting work into the evenings or past those crunch periods of about 7 to 9 in the morning and then in the afternoon would be, whatever you guys can do would be really appreciated. I think, Mayor, that's all I had. Thank you.
I have one question. So, David, on the traffic signal loops, is there a standard place where you put those as far as setback from the crosswalk? And the reason I ask is over there by Sizzler, I've been stuck there a few times because I believe the loop is too far close to the crosswalk, and I don't try to encroach in that. So if you can just make sure when you put the loops in that they're smartly placed, because...
Well, I'll tell you that. I mean, the loops before were actually inside the crosswalk, some of them in there.
Yes.
We put the concrete crosswalks in there. There'll be no loops in the crosswalk.
But if you can set them back further as far back as practical.
And our own traffic engineer designed this, and all the loops will be changed, and they'll all be put in new, and they'll be back at the proper spacing.
Thank you.
That's out there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Richard.
Where are we in the budget?
The budget, okay. Big picture in the budget, we're about $1,000 below the bid price right now. We've had some increase in costs, like due to the concrete, but we had less costs because we had less backfill, less asphalt, less excavation because of that. So if you add up all the ups and downs, we're about $1,000 from the thing. So I haven't used any contingency money to date on that. We do have on the books out there a large tree sitting there to go into our main landscape. That big tree was taken out of the bid because they couldn't find it during the bidding process. So I'm kind of waiting at the end so I know exactly how much money I have, because you guys kind of gave me a direction, don't spend any of my contingency money. so I haven't. But if you let me spend about anywhere from $12,000 to $18,000 for a tree, I'll put the tree in right now. But I've been holding off on that.
Thank you.
All right, I did attend the National Night Out. That was a great night, and rumor has it among the county that we were the largest amount of people that stayed the latest. So congratulations on that. It was just a great time of the three cities just bonding together and just having a nice night out. Do you want to congratulate Richard and Tina again? I think I won the council pool for, he got emotional within the first 12 seconds of the ceremony. So it was iffy, but I think I did win that one. So thank you very much. It was a great ceremony, and the five of us, along with the city manager, that just spoke volumes of the level of support that we have for each other. I did attend the La Salle Unified School District. They had another town hall meeting exploring the potential bond initiative in 2018 for high school improvements. It's a 50-year-old school, and they're looking at ways to finance to get that redone. I did attend the League of California Cities Orange County Division meeting down in Mission Viejo. It was very interesting. The league as a whole supported SB1, the gas tax, even though necessarily Orange County wasn't for it, but the league as a whole did support it. They did give an update on it. They never called it a gas tax. They called it a revenue enhancement, which I thought was interesting because on my side it's a tax. And basically their turn on it was, well, now that it's there, let's find a way to make sure that the money stays within the local jurisdictions and not spread out all over the state. So that'll be interesting to watch how they move forward with that. They also OCTA did an update on the 405 improvement project, which is currently underway. I did attend Patty Meyer's retirement reception from La Salle Unified. She is retiring as deputy superintendent last week, and it was a great few hundred people there, very well attended, and she had a lot of fans there. I did do the Bronco World Series over at LAYB. That was fun. This is our 18th year as a family in that league, so it meant a lot to be able to throw out that first pitch and get egged on by my fellow colleagues to keep backing up. But never underestimate the power of a girl, right? And I do want to thank Senator Wynn. She came and spoke at the opening ceremonies. That was very impressive to have our senator there. She's also a baseball mom in Fountain Valley. So she spoke more as a mom than as a politician, and it really hit home with the kids. And I want to thank her for that as well. Many of you have read probably in the Register about the resignation of Orange County Fire Authority Chief Jeff Bowman. We have a board meeting on Thursday to discuss what the next steps are on that. There's some press out there. The current interim chief is Dave Anderson, and we will work through that process and keep everybody updated as far as next steps. And then tonight, we'd like to close in memory of Dr. Harry Strohmeyer, who passed away Friday. Harry and his wife, Johnny. Johnny is the CEO of the La Salle Chamber of Commerce. They moved to Los Alamitos area in 1967, and Harry continued to practice dentistry in Los Alamitos until his retirement just 6 years ago. His smile has been a part of the Los Alamitos and surrounding area for more than 40 years. He's been an active role in our community, from past president of the Chamber of Commerce, the Harbor Dental Society, and the Seal Beach Rotary. He was adored by his family and friends and well respected throughout the community. Those left behind were his wife, Johnny, his two daughters, Chelsea. Chelsea happens to be the city manager's executive assistant and also a local mom. And their other daughter, Mandy, who's a resident of Seal Beach. Their son-in-laws, Mark and Tim, and grandsons, Zach, Parker, Noah, and Evan. And services will be held this coming Friday, August 25th at 1:30 at St. Hedwig, and the burial right after at Cypress Forest Lawn, and a reception immediately following at Old Ranch Country Club. And our thoughts and prayers are with the Strohmeyer family as they deal with this difficult situation. Okay, now we're on items from the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Want to congratulate Councilmember and Mrs. Murphy for getting married, and I appreciate being there as well. We had a good time. It was really good. All five of my bosses together at one time.
But having fun, though, but having fun.
It was fun. Thank you. Want to thank publicly Gary Saldivar for his 30 years of service. Just fantastic. He's he's not, he didn't have to stay around here, but just a fantastic team that he's leading under Stephen, and just a great attitude. The group, we got to go, Stephen took the group out to lunch last week, and it's just, the camaraderie is fantastic. But Gary's playing such a great part for 30 years in this city. And I want to also publicly thank Jason Alimam, but I probably will start crying. You know? I'm very sad for us, but I just want to recognize the great work that, Jason, that you've done, and appreciate working with you so much. And you brought the credibility of the city in terms of the financial status, the upgraded bonds, the budget standing committee that has been put in place, and all the great work that you've done and everything that you've taken on. Just great job. Really appreciate everything that you've done, and I'm really happy for you and your family and going to the city of Fountain Valley. So thank you very much. And let's see, I'm almost tearing up.
Yeah, you're almost worse than Rich. But
Right, yeah, almost. He's already tearing up over here.
If he was thinking of getting married, he'd be crying again, too.
We'd be crying.
Ouch.
You did it.
I wanted to mention Coffee with the Cop on September 7th, 2017, from 8 to 10 a.m. at the Starbucks here in Los Alamitos. And that's the next event that will be held with the police department. That's it.
All right. Warrants.
Mayor?
I'm sorry.
Can we have a 5-minute break?
Yes, that
Sorry.
would be great. Thank you. To warrants. Do I have a motion?
Roll call?
No? Motion?
Second.
Where did that come from?
Who said roll call?
I think it was Doug.
Wow. Marriage is really affecting you.
We have a motion and a second?
Yes.
Okay, roll call, please.
I'm sorry, who was the motion? Richard? Okay.
Mr. Tina.
Sure.
He just disguised it in a roll call.
Councilmember Murphy's saying he did not make a motion. If I can get a motion in a second,
I'll
please.
make a motion for real this time.
Thank you. And Councilmember Wilson has a second.
If you
And
say so.
Councilmember Kusamoto,
Aye.
Councilmember Murphy,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Edgar,
Aye.
Mayor Hasselbrink.
Aye. Consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be adopted, may be acted upon by one motion unless a council member requests a separate action on a specific item. Do I have anybody wanting to pull an item?
E, please.
Anybody else?
I'll move the balance.
Okay,
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Richard, item E.
I just need a second. I just think we should at least mention Dr. Patel and John Osborne one more time. Anytime somebody's willing to put up $1,000 to see what a need they see in the city, we should recognize them as many times as we can. With that, I'll move the item.
Great, thank you.
Now, second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have the ordinance, consideration of an ordinance amending Title 15 of the Los Alamitos Municipal Code, adding Chapter 15.14 expedited permitting processes for electrical vehicle charging stations.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Much like the streamlined process for the solar panel industry, there has been a new assembly bill in 1236, which now requires cities to adopt a streamlined process for electrical vehicle charging stations. And so with that, we want to remain compliant. So we're presenting this item to you to approve an expedited streamlined permitting process for electrical vehicle charging stations in Los Alamitos. And the schedule we have is that you do the first reading today, it'll be the second reading next month, and this would be activated and approved in time to meet the September 30th, 2017 deadline.
Warren.
So, thank you, Madam Mayor, and then a question for staff. So, how is this expedited? How many days does it shave off the normal process?
Well, in some larger cities, it would shave off a lot of process.
But in our city?
In our city, we're pretty small. We're already doing it fast if somebody needs it. But now we're going to have the supportive materials, the required checklist that the state wants us to have in order to educate the public a little bit easier.
That's a little bit different. So my experience, right? I had one put in, and it took me like a matter of a couple hours to get the permit. The electrician was doing it and came down here, pulled the permit, and it was done. So I can't imagine that adding these forms streamlines that process. I think it looks like to me it kind of takes a step backwards by adding the extra steps in there. Is there anything we can do to kind of prevent some of this bureaucracy?
No, because we want to be compliant with the state. I mean, the state adopts these laws because of hassles that the industry has received at larger counters than ours, at larger city halls, the big cities. So it really doesn't affect us because we're already streamlined. We could already take things in by email if somebody wants to submit them to us. Mark Abbott's here in the audience. He can tell you we're already pretty small, pretty tight, and able to satisfy the customer quickly. So no, we can't avoid having the proper checklist.
So when you say that, let's say my neighbor who doesn't have a charging station in their house, they wanted to send an email into you the day before, the week before, they can do that, and then wouldn't have to come to the counter, wouldn't have to go through all that. They can come and just get the permit.
You probably still have to come for payment, right, Mark?
Well, yeah. Well, you can actually pay by Visa now, Visa, MasterCard, ATM, right?
Yeah.
Can we do that over the phone or over the?
Yep.
Okay, and then it's just really a matter of getting the record with the city, right? Okay.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I'm very excited about this because I think the mayor talked about it earlier about the gas tax, SB1, that I would urge those that are considering electric to go electric because you'll avoid that 12 cents. And I was just bragging that I went 3 months without having to put gas in my car. I try and drive as much on electric as I can, and it's just pennies to operate. And I do have the charging station at home, which makes it very convenient. And I think at some point in the future, I hope that we can take the AQMD funds and put some electric charging station infrastructure in the city somewhere that will also benefit the residents and visitors. But with that, no more questions. I think that this is a good thing, but I wish it wouldn't be so cumbersome.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Second. And this is for the city attorney to read?
Yes.
Oh, I give.
The appropriate motion would be to waive the reading and introduce ordinance number 2017-04, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Los Alamitos, California, amending Title 15 of the Los Alamitos Municipal Code to add Chapter 15.14, procedures for expediting permitting processing for electric vehicle charging systems.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next up, discussion item 12A. This is to provide direction to the voting delegate regarding the 2017 annual conference resolution packet. And we'll get a quick staff report on that.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'll have the City Clerk, Wendy Heatenar, do the staff report.
Okay, good evening, Council. As you know, the annual conference will be in Sacramento this year. It's on September 15th is when the General Assembly will be held. At a prior council meeting, Mayor Hasselbrink was appointed as the voting delegate. There are only 2 resolutions for consideration, and this is just an opportunity for the council to discuss and provide direction to our voting delegate.
Okay, do we have any comments up here on either one of the resolutions?
I looked through, there's 2 resolutions, one having to do with basically law enforcement. I don't know if the chief has any perspective on it, but I know over the past couple of years we've talked about some of the different effects that releasing people and trying to reduce the prison population and then actually moving felons down into local jurisdictions and then potentially pushing out folks that they think are not harmful to the community. So we've had a pretty significant rise in crime, both from kind of petty crime to actually burglary and stuff locally. So I'm supportive of that one. I don't know, Chief, if I don't mean to hit you by surprise here, but it also talked about some of the kind of downgrading of some of the crimes from felonies to misdemeanors, and it just seems like this policy is going the right direction and trying to advocate for it, but I didn't know if you had any more information you wanted to pass on to Shelley.
I know that California Chiefs of Police have been working with the big box kind of anchor stores too, because like Target and the like. In terms of Proposition 47, I think you referenced the reclassification of felonies to misdemeanors. They're getting hit the hardest, and they're losing millions and millions of dollars every year in theft. And these folks, we used to be able to actually arrest them when they would commit a crime, a series of petty thefts. Now they actually have this down to a science where they can steal up to $900, and that's exactly what they do. And they go to the next store, steal $900, and what they get is essentially a citation, a summons. And because of the changes in those classifications, they don't actually see any real jail time for that. And these losses are now becoming unreported because they feel like they can't do anything. The stores aren't doing anything. But we're seeing double-digit increases throughout the state of California with what used to be property, just general property crimes. But when somebody's doing even heroin or methamphetamine, and we catch them with it, it's just a misdemeanor instead of a felony. So they're not doing it at the jail times. I think you also spoke about the early release programs, the realignment, as well as AB 109, which was a realignment in 2011, and that as well as Proposition 57, I believe, with the governor's initiative, which is another reduction of time, because what they're looking at is when to actually parole folks out and giving them more good time, if you will, to get out. And we at one point we were looking at the schedules for that, and we realized that somebody could spend on the best case scenario, they could spend a year in jail or prison and get almost 1,000 days of good time. So you realize that they're not going to jail for a lot of the crimes that were considered serious, and that's the problem, is that what we call serious and violent or no longer classified as serious and violent, and which is like assault against a police officer is not considered a violent crime. Arson is not considered a violent crime. The raping someone, putting them under the influence and then raping them is not considered a violent crime. There are a number, the list goes on, of crimes that are no longer considered violent. And the formation as a result of the BSEC being formed as a result of AB 109 actually redefined recidivism so that they could show that the recidivism rates are actually lower and that AB 109 is working, when in fact, when you actually have to arrest somebody, convict them on the very same charges they were released on, instead of just being rearrested for any charge, that's very difficult to get them exactly on the same charges they were arrested on previously. So a lot of this is about trying to make right what wasn't done properly. I think in Proposition 47, the people have spoke, but I think when they think it's the Safe Schools and Neighborhoods Act, which was totally misleading, and the money that was supposed to come down the Department of Finance in the state wasn't even prepared to give them an actual number that was supposed to come back to the folks. And here's the other problem with that, and this is something that's much greater. With AB 109 and even the money coming back from Proposition 47, supposedly, all of that money goes to the BSEC, which is the Board of State Community Corrections. They send that down to the county as most pass-throughs happen. Well, the county was supposed to create what they call CCP, which is Community Corrections Partnerships, and that's usually a board of about 10 folks. That board only has one municipal police chief on the board, if it has a board at all. The city of Los Angeles doesn't have a CCP. So all of that money that's funneled down goes right to the Board of Supervisors, and then in LA for Orange County, it goes to this CCP, and we get the municipal policing departments get 1% of whatever comes to the county in Orange County. And when you consider that municipal police chiefs have 78% of the population under their police protection, if you will, and you think about a county like Orange and you get 1%, but that 1%, and the rest of it's going to the Orange County Sheriff's Department for their jails and other things. It's going to probation, Orange County Probation, HCA. It's going to a lot of different other groups, county groups, but it's only 1% is going to the municipal police chiefs through the county. And of that 1%, all of the contract cities for the sheriff's department is part of that 1% as well. So we get, out of millions of dollars, we get maybe a few $1,000s to deal with that. So it's really difficult to, it's made the job of a municipal police chiefs, very, very challenging, to say the least. So we appreciate them trying to fix some of this stuff and realizing that the finances, even if they are some money that's coming to them, isn't going to where it's really needed.
Great. Thank you, Chief.
Any other comments? And just reading over the two of them, I'm in support of both of them. Number one, very similar to what the chief said. It's just undoing something that should have never been done before. And you see just the lack of care of committing crimes anymore. It's a ticket, big deal. I can get a ticket speeding. It's just not taken as seriously. So I'm definitely in support of that. The second one, it just refers to local control again. We're always fighting local control, and I think we need consistent regardless of what services or what the issue is. If it's supportive of local control, I think we just need to stay consistent in that as well. So, and with that, do I have a motion?
Do we need a motion for that, or
just?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to support the two resolutions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect, thank you. Okay, 12B, approval of professional service agreement with MIG for targeted zoning and subdivisions code update, approval of corresponding budget amendments, and appointment of advisory committee. So we'll start with the staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council. This item is being brought forward. You approved the user fee study at the last council meeting, which now frees up some funding, and as we had said, we'd eventually bring back the zoning code update for consideration to the City Council. This item is on the agenda for your consideration of a professional services agreement. So I'll let Stephen Mendoza do a brief staff report.
Thank you, Brett. Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, since the 2015 adoption of the general plan, there's been much discussion about the zoning ordinance maybe being outdated or use tables needing to be thrown out and started from scratch and looked at it closely again. Again, tonight you heard some issues regarding zoning. So in preparation of the current budget year, we went out to bid to get some real pricing. We went out to bid in March 15th, around March 15th to create some real pricing for council to make budget decisions on. Well, we've done that. Council's getting closer to the time where we think we have the funding to pay for it, so we're bringing it forward to you tonight. We went out to bid for what's called the Targeted Zoning and Subdivision Code Update. It's an update of both the zoning code and the subdivision codes because they kind of travel down the same road together, and there's a lot of cross references between the two of them. So we packaged them up together. We received two proposals, two very good proposals from two very good firms, RRM Design and MIG. They both responded to it. Staff evaluated the proposals, checked references, and then came up with a final selection. Based upon our proposal rating, reference checks, and costs, and local expertise, MIG was staff's preferred choice to complete the project. Luckily, staff had to choose between a good proposal and a better proposal. There was a $47,000 spread between the two proposals. As you know, with council, those kind of monies are important to our city, so we make sure we're fiscally responsible. MIG has a little more knowledge of local conditions. MIG performed a role of acting as supplementing our planning staff when the Olson Development Company proposed 17 single-family condominiums on Sausalito a few years ago. So they watched our city council meetings. They've been present in our staffing. They know what the issues are with our zoning code, and they know what our issues were with the general plan as well, because they helped implement some of the items with the general plan in that development. The targeted zoning and subdivision code update will also have a advisory committee consisting of 2 willing council members, 2 willing planning commissioners, and 3 members of the public. Those are usually business persons. Typically, there's a few categories you choose from. Sometimes you'll choose somebody from a small business, sometimes a large business. Oftentimes a member of the Chamber of Commerce who represents a selection of businesses, sometimes a small restaurant, sometimes somebody who finds signage to be important. So there's different members of the community that would want to be involved for different reasons. We don't have a restaurant association, but that would be a perfect person to have involved in it because they cover many different businesses in one category. So you'll be tasked with that decision. If you can't make that decision tonight, we can put that on a future agenda to put that on the selection of that committee. But with that, you have the authorization to approve the professional services agreement with MIG for the targeted zoning and subdivision code update in the amount of $145,848. Authorize an increase of the budget amount of $146,000 and authorize an increase in the budget amount for $25,000 to cover the extra legal review it might take during this year process and also some engineering work that might take for the subdivision section of the code to be updated. We don't want to come to you with change orders for internal costs related to those kind of things. So we always ask you up front for that. And then if you wish, you certainly could appoint the advisory committee tonight, or we can put that off to a later date. This is not a public hearing. It's awarding of a contract. If you have any questions, Laura Stetson, one of the principals from MIG, is present in the audience to answer any questions you may have regarding her proposal. And with that, I'll turn it back to City Council.
Thank you. Josh?
Yeah, just a really quick question, and before kind of getting to the thoughts, but the idea behind 7 individuals within the council or within that kind of subcommittee, whatever you want to call it, that studies this, is that pretty standard? You said within this, there too? I mean, or is this something where at the council level, 2 council members would form an ad hoc to do that?
Well, it is pretty standard to have members of the community in on the zoning code. You don't want them to come out of the woodwork later on. It is much easier and palatable to present a zoning code that has had input from the business community when it's in draft form.
Gotcha. So I guess my thoughts for it is, even though there's extremely high cost, I think relative to our city and for what we're looking at, I think it's something that we do need to look at. Just attending past council meetings where I was on the council, there was a lot of issues about being reactionary. We had that meeting that was last meeting just regarding for an issue that the gentleman spoke about today, for recreational uses, and getting to that as saying, do we want to move that direction? In prior past, and we've also looked at emergency ordinances to look at other zoning issues. So I do want to make sure that we have some forethought and some, we're not trying to, always play catch up with whatever kind of development comes out there with current zoning, and we actually have a logical step move forward to this. So I'm in support of this contract.
Troy?
Yeah, why do we call it targeted?
Because it's not we're not throwing away the whole zoning code. We've identified things in the proposal of sections of the code that we've had bad experiences with, and we thought would need to be updated and looked at in a targeted manner.
But so yeah, I see the optic problem, but I mean, is it really? Are we cherry picking stuff to pick, or this is a holistic approach to this open zoning issue that we've got to take on?
Well, I think the uses are very specific, and so that is our major issue, and that has been brought out in the RFP, and that's included in this. It doesn't disclude the biggest issue, which is the table of uses of what's allowed in what zones in the city.
But it's a comprehensive table.
Yeah. Comprehensive table with comprehensive definitions.
In all areas of the city, not just the recreation or the industrial area that we potentially don't want to have certain businesses on. It's the entire citywide.
Correct. It'll be residential uses, which have R1, R2, and R3. It'll be industrial, which are 2 different types of industrial, and then the various commercial uses, which are CO and CG.
Okay. And the leeway that we have on this advisory committee, maybe I'm going down the same path that Councilmember Wilson is like you said, it's best practice to go wide and to try and get the best representation Does that increase the cost of this? We are getting into a little bit of a habit, and this is not directed primarily to you in this situation, but even tonight, we had an event, a very unfortunate event happen, and now we've signed up for trauma care that we never budgeted for, but it's the right thing to do, so we could justify it, and that's 10 grand. And past council meeting, we did a $50,000 additional item that we just passed the budget on. We're very slowly, we just keep chipping away more and more until eventually it's going to be a lot of money. And I absolutely think we need to do this. I'm just concerned about bigger picture. We just seem to kind of have really good justifications to continue to keep going. And I don't know if there's any opportunity to offset the costs, and maybe you don't get the most refined best practice where you have time to do the forum, but maybe the vendors can operate a little bit faster in getting through the process. And we have to sacrifice a little bit of the quality for cost. Is there any upside potential in this sort of a proposal from your perspective?
There is. I'll tell you an experience I had in La Mirada when I worked there. We had 3 businesses on that group, and forever you would have new businesses move in town frustrated with the new zoning code and signage. And then when you're able to explain to them that, yeah, I know you're upset with the sign code, but 3 businesses participated in designing that sign code, and they took all of this into consideration, and they vetted it between themselves and came up with this sign code. It gives a safe harbor for a lot of people in having the business community involved in developing a code that works for them.
Okay, so the bottom line is you don't think we would be able to, it's not going to make it more cost effective to cut down the community involvement at this point?
No, I don't think it would cut much off this budget, to be honest with you. And I think it gives a better perspective for the city council. The subcommittees with our city council works well. And I think that would be another component of it. I think it works well in our city.
Great, thank you, Stephen.
Thank you. Who was on the selection committee? Because in other quotes, that you've done, right? You'd have 2 of us that would help do the evaluation. So who was all on the selection committee?
Myself. I couldn't find anyone else.
You didn't seek anyone
available.
from the council, obviously, then?
No.
Okay. And so, and then cost was a big determination then? Is that kind of how you've characterized it?
Cost is always a big determination for our city. We want to make sure that
But you're the one that made the decision. So I mean, you mentioned about cost differential between the 2 offers, and so is this the lower cost one?
Yes.
Okay. And then the city of Baldwin Park, when they were doing their study, was it targeted? Was it the same, or how does it compare to our project, Baldwin Parks? Please.
Thank you, Councilmember. For the record, Laura Stetson from MIG, Pasadena, California. Baldwin Park was actually probably not the best example to use because they did a comprehensive zoning code update, and they didn't do it until 10 years after their general plan.
But how much did that cost Baldwin Park to do a comprehensive? Significantly more than this right here?
Those dollars were dollars of 10 years past, so not significantly more. The thing that is great about your code today is it's in good structural shape. Believe it or not, there are different ways that you can put a zoning code together. And when we did a comprehensive update, for example, for Baldwin Park, we pulled the whole thing apart and put it back together and incorporated policies from the general plan. In your case, we're working from a great structure. What we're doing is getting in there and working within your structure to look at the land use table, to look at development standards, to look at your administrative processes to make sure that they're streamlined in the way that you want.
And then, so some of the notes in the table, though, that the code as I guess is written, I'll kind of paraphrase it. You're not really going to touch that because it's I would then infer it's adequate the way it's written. So in other words, you're not going to tear our code completely apart and build it back together. But it seems to me though that if again we can look at Baldwin Park 10 years ago, escalate the dollars up and see. But if you're not touching some of our stuff, it seems like we would be less than what you charged Baldwin Park.
Yes, because it's not the same level of effort. To pull
and
it
so that would be a concern. And then, okay, thank you. And then back to you, Stephen. What the members of the public spoke about earlier about the zoning issue. Will this effort, this exercise, when it's all said and done, if it is the will of the council and the people, will they be able to go into the PM zone or not? Or are they restricted, the recreational use restricted to the light industrial zone and the light industrial zone only?
That'll be decided by the subcommittee that works on this, later then by the planning commission, and then later by the city council.
So if there is a decision in that direction, right? Presupposing that.
Yeah, it
Okay,
comes from
and-
a policy level point of view.
Okay, very good. And then lastly, on the planning commission, why only 2 members? You can actually have 3 from the planning commission and not form a majority, correct?
We could, but managing 7 people in a meeting is about as
But you're
efficient.
going to have 7 anyways, right? I mean, isn't that the composition of the meeting?
Yeah, it would be 2, 2, and 3.
So you can
and
actually
that's
go,
7.
you can go 2, 3, and 2 members of the public and still have 7 members, right? You want an odd number,
Could.
of course.
Yeah.
So I would suggest 3 members of the planning commission. That way it would be more of a ad hoc that is not a majority of that body, but that would be my kind of take on that. With that, back to you, Mayor. Thank you.
Richard?
I just want to, I agree we should be doing this, but we used to talk about piecemeal budgeting here a couple of years ago, and it's a bad practice to where money just keeps getting spent without looking at the big picture. We all recognize as a small city that we pretty much spend everything we take in. So once a year, we try and spend what we project will be our income. Now, I think in this case, staff has made a good case where the money is going to come from, at least. But I'm concerned, as Troy already mentioned, the 3 items that have come up, that we're going down this road of the piecemeal budgeting, and money just keeps getting spent if we continue. I get off my soapbox now. Thank you.
Thank you. I do agree with Mayor Pro Tem Edgar. I'd like to get rid of the targeted zoning and subdivisions code update and just call it a zoning and subdivisions code update. I just think it's, what are we targeting? And we're really not. We're just looking overall, and we're addressing the issues, but I don't think we're targeting a certain zone or anything like that. So just for future conversations and updates as we go through this process. Item number 3 in the recommendations, that sounded like that is a contingency and not necessarily going to be spent, but could be spent.
That is correct. We would like it in the budget, so we don't have to come back to you, but certainly our intent is not to spend $25,000.
Okay. And then also in the advisory committee, I'd like to throw a traffic commissioner in there, and I don't know whether that means getting rid of one of the business persons or just having one planning commission, but when we talk about zoning, traffic plays a big part of that, and why we make the decisions we do. And I don't know if you throw 2 traffic commissions and then have 9 unwieldy people dealing with, or you take one away, but I think traffic definitely needs to be considered in this committee. And then also, if we do keep with the 3 business persons, you mentioned different ways of how we could kind of sort this out, but I think it would be just for what we're looking at, having a restaurant representative, since we do have so many food establishments here, a retail and a non-retail, and maybe subdivide it that way. I think it's hard doing large business versus small business because we don't have that many large businesses in here. And I think the small businesses are the ones that are going to be mainly affected by the zoning anyway. So that's my take on it. And do I have any motions?
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
I may be able to make a motion here, but so the potential offset to the budget is the fee changes that had come through to say that that's how you would offset this cost. When do those actually cross over into this time period? Because if I remember right, a lot of those wouldn't actually start generating the net benefits until next year, but this is a current year project.
So the amount that's outlined in the staff report is the amount that we expect to receive in the current year. So it's a prorated amount. We will receive more of an impact in 18-19, but the amount reflected in the staff report is just a prorated amount.
Can you tell me specifically how much that is for this year?
Yeah.
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 So, so we expect
Yeah.
to receive approximately $230,000
230.
in the current year.
Okay.
And then in next fiscal year, we expect to receive in excess of 290 to 300.
Okay. And I guess as we're making this motion, Mayor, I'm hoping to get a manageable number of people. I kind of like the traffic commission. I don't know how we would deal with the planning versus the traffic, but
Let's take it piece by piece, though. Maybe that's the easiest way
Right.
to do it. So,
yeah.
so not trying to do one motion, but
Right.
four,
It's
four
four very
motions.
different things.
To add one comment, I mean, in my experience, just running private business, 7 people is a lot. And then what I'm most concerned with too is you have 2 council members, and kind of naturally within that, the rest of the group is going to look to the council members who are making the policy as kind of natural leaders. So I just question whether 7 is the right number in that respect, in terms of efficiency as well. So just my add point on there, but I can be convinced for 7 if need be.
So, Mayor or Councilmember Kuzmato, are you wanting to take this in pieces?
Sure, I would suggest that, yeah.
Could you?
No, I'll defer.
Yeah.
Well, what if we took the first 3 items are fiscally decisions or motions? So maybe we could take the first 3 as a group. I don't know if you could do one without the other. I'm sure you could probably do number 3, but then it's just coming back to us for a budget increase, a possible budget increase at a later date.
Well, let's deal with it then. Yeah.
So, Councilmember Kuzmato, I know that some of the most, I don't know if I'd call them controversial, but harder issues we've had have come through some of the business sides where a lot of the folks are coming to you to kind of help champion things. I'm going to follow your lead on this.
Okay.
It's a budget thing. I think Councilmember Murphy and I are kind of consistent on that, but I see that this is the second or third time that we've had to try to avoid this sort of problem, so I'm kind of going with it here.
Well, I'm okay. I'll tackle number 4 in terms of the advisory committee. I would make a motion that the advisory committee would be basically. This is going to be a tough one. I do like the traffic commission idea as well. 2 council members, 2 planning commission members, 2 traffic commission members, and then an odd number of the public as staff would like. So that way at least be odd, but I think we'd have representation from our appointed body as well as us, and so that'll be the motion that I make with no specified total value, total quantity of folks. 2 council members, 2 planning, 2 traffic commissioners, and an odd number of business members.
And that's your motion for number 4?
Correct.
Okay.
I guess Councilmember Kuzma, I was focused on 1 through 3 because I think, like I said, I'm trying to get past this financial expenditure. Are you satisfied that?
I am probably not ready to support that expenditure, to be honest. So if there's a motion to expend, I'm probably not going to support it. So I'm not going to make a motion on it.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we take the staff recommendations for numbers 1 and 2.
I'll second that.
I think 3 should wait myself. If we need to come back for the money, I'd like to know about it. And 4, I disagree with my colleague just a little bit. I'd rather go 2 council members, 2 business members, 2 planning commissioners, and 1 traffic, which was Shelley's initial recommendation.
Is that your motion?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, so for the first motion of approving items 1 and 2 and not approving item 3, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's all but no on that one.
Okay, so opposed? So that's a 4-1 for items 1, 2. Approve items 1 and 2 and not approve item 3. Okay, then for item 4, advisory committee of 2 council members, 2 business person, or 2 council members, 2 planning commission, a traffic commission, and an odd number of businesses, 3 businesses?
It'd have to be 2.
2 businesses, okay, that's what I had down. And we have a second on that, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 No.
Opposed?
I'm going to go aye.
Okay, so 4-1, so that passes. Okay, and then we need to, at our next meeting, have a discussion item about who to appoint for the, for the whole advisory committee, correct?
Unless you can get 2 volunteers tonight.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we get the 2 volunteers, and that way they can kind of lead the charge on selecting the commissioners? And
So
then
the 2 would then choose the commissioners and also the businesses?
just for the efficiency. Yeah, I would think that's
Okay.
probably most appropriate.
Okay. Do I have any takers? Anybody?
I'll
Warren?
do it.
I'll do it.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Cool. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right.
Opposed? Okay. Now, 12C. Recreational marijuana, commercial sales, commercial cultivation, and mobile sales. Can we get a staff report, please?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. This item is an analysis of a discussion item related to recreational marijuana, commercial sales, commercial cultivation, mobile sales. Councilmember Wilson had requested information. We wanted to bring it forward. Staff has brought forward information to get the discussion started with the council and provide direction back to staff that we would come back with at a later time possibly. So I'll have Stephen Mendoza, the Director of Development Services, do the staff report.
Thank you, Brett. I'll start. I'm going to need a little help from Carrie, so Carrie's going to chime in a few times. Thanks so much. Marijuana is becoming one of the most complex issues in California, with legislation trying to keep up with the changing regulatory landscape. As you know, there's new laws, new proposed laws every season, and we're constantly having to update our laws to address those issues. Again, it's challenging to retain the proper understanding of the industry because it changes so much. So it causes cities to have to look at their zoning codes, their ordinances regularly and more frequently than they ever have. Councilmember Wilson had requested a discussion on commercial marijuana as it relates to recreational marijuana, and there is really an interesting difference. Medical marijuana has been legal in California for a period of time. Now recreational marijuana. So if you separate them, those in your first 2 separations, then you begin to understand. So medical marijuana we've already addressed in our code, but we have, even though it has the word cannabis in our code several times, that only deals with medical marijuana. So now we need to address the issues related to recreational marijuana, and specifically commercial sales, commercial cultivation, and also the possibility of delivery and mobile sales. So this staff report outlines those differences and begins the discussion for City Council to give the staff direction regarding recreational marijuana and the commercial cultivation, commercial sales of it, or mobile sales of it. And with that, I'm going to highlight some of the sections in our code that already deal with some marijuana-related issues. Currently, our existing regulations have a ban on federally prohibitive activities. Our code has a blanket statement that says if it's against federal law, it's not allowed here. And we like the having that in our code, but we don't think it's enough, so we want to make sure we go a little further than that in addressing this issue. In 2015, we did the amendments to our municipal code that relate to medical marijuana. So you'll see the word cannabis in our zoning code already, so that addresses that. It's not good enough to cover recreational marijuana. And that was adopted in January 2016. The City Council took action on that. And with that, if there's no need for me to go into anything in depth, I'll turn it back over to the City Council and begin the discussion of providing staff and the city attorney direction of what to draft and bring back to you in a future ordinance.
Okay. Josh, I'll start with you since...
I figured it would be starting with me. I appreciate you guys humoring and bringing this back. Basically, the reason I wanted to put this on the agenda, so thank you, Madam Mayor, and Council supporting putting on an agenda discussion, was that I don't want to have a situation where we're reacting to an application filed after January 1st, 2018, and we have to go through an exercise for emergency ordinances, moratoriums, et cetera. So with this, it gives us a timeline to approve action, if we so choose to, and get it done before the effective date of January 1. I also am happy the city was able to reach out and look at the other municipalities surrounding us, because I think it's important that, just for consistency's sake with the law, that we look at to see what other cities directly surrounding our contiguous border are doing, and it's pretty much universal, as you can see the staff report, for prohibition. The one caveat was Seal Beach, and do we ever get a confirmation from Seal Beach?
No, they had a prohibition on marijuana use, but an ordinance that they adopted about 6 years ago. I'm still trying to get answer on the recreational, specifically on the recreational use.
Gotcha.
So I don't have the complete answer yet.
So absent of that, I would at least entertain within the council that for commercial sales within our city, we limit to do what the other cities have done, which is to prohibit commercial cultivation, manufacturing, testing, retail, on-site, on-premise consumption, mobile delivery, distribution, and micro businesses, and then see if there's any legal recourse for outdoor advertising within that space, within the allowed current of the law. So that would be the discussion items, and to bring it back to a future element to restrict prohibition.
Anybody, Warren?
No.
Richard?
Nothing.
Corey?
I'm okay.
Okay. So Josh, do you want to have a motion on something?
Make a motion to prohibit the items as listed, and I can go over this again. I can.
There is a resolution attached, number 2017-16, which would authorize staff to prepare an ordinance and come back with it along the lines of what you outlined.
Great. So that would be the motion.
There you go. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Passes unanimously.
And just to point out, Stephen, the calendar that's included in the staff report still would be followed, right? That's right on target with, now that we've received direction from the council and the resolution.
We still would be taking it to the Planning Commission first, I believe, and so it could be a while before we come back with the ordinance.
But it'll be done before the end of the year.
Right.
Thank you. And then we're going to bring it back to our last round of council comments. Any additions?
Hey, I just wanted to give a shout out to Jason one more time. You know, I've worked with a lot of finance managers in my time here, and I just really appreciate, I think, again, you know, your successes have been the successes also of all of us up here, and, you know, definitely getting the AAA rating and then refinancing the park and working your way through and getting us back on track financially. You did a great job at managing Rich and I through the ad hoc meetings and putting the tiger back in the bottle, CPA guy down at the end over there. But no, I really enjoyed working with you, and I think Fountain Valley is getting a great guy. And good luck to you, and we will always be a good reference for you. Thank you.
I'd like to second that. Troy and then Josh and I got to work with Jason closely on the Finance Standing Committee, and it was amazing. As I've joked, we've never stumped you once in 3 years. I thought Troy maybe had you there at the last one, but you came through, and wish you all the luck over there. You know, we, as Troy said, we thought Glenn was pretty good. You know, we first time we met with Glenn, Troy and I left, we're like, where's a guy like that? And then Glenn gave you the highest rank. He said, "Oh, this guy, don't worry about this guy. You're in fun. You're never going to need me again," he said. And it turned out he was true. And we do need some rabbits, though, to pull out of the hats the next couple of years if you could leave them behind, because, you know, we're going to have the same problems every year. Thank you. Good luck.
Jason, just echo the same comments. Brett, you have a very hard job to fill because the bar was set extremely high. So we have high expectations, but I know you will go far in your career. So congratulations, Jason. The best wish for your family. I know they probably like seeing you a lot more with your closer commute.
I'll just echo what the council says, and best wishes to you, and hope we can see you back here someday.
Agreed. And with that, we're going to be not going into closed session. Correct? Okay. And once again, we are closing in memory of Dr. Harry Strohmeyer. Meeting adjourned. 8:38. No.